A Singaporean has just returned from conquering Mount Everest despite a human traffic jam on the way up. The bottleneck was caused by poor weather, which narrowed the climbing window.
At least 11 climbers have died so far this year, making this season one of the deadliest ever. And for more on this, mountain climber Jeremy Tong joins us in studio tonight. Jeremy, good to have you with us to be able to give us sort of a first-person account of what the conditions were like. We've seen some pictures, but describe to us what it's like queuing at 8,000 feet.
Right. So we were probably waiting a little bit of time, you know. We were past the South Summit and we were waiting for about 1.5 hours just to pass the queue. And there was already a lot of people when I saw, when I passed the South Summit, there was really a shocking time where I saw a lot of people just waiting to go up.
And you didn't have any idea when you set off that many people were going to be converging at the same point in time?
In fact, we did know because of the weather windows. There were a lot of people going for the same period of time. So we sort of knew that there were going to be a lot of people on the mountain at the same time. But I wasn't really expecting that amount of people on the Hillary step at that moment.
Right. Jeremy, you still bear some of the scars of your journey. You know, we can see you've experienced a little bit of frostbite. There were lots of people crowded. Lots of people got very exhausted. What was your experience like? Right.
I mean, for myself, I was also pretty exhausted. I mean, the oxygen's were running out as well. That was the main thing that we were very concerned about as we were climbing up to the summit. When we were climbing down as well, there was also going to be another traffic jam coming down. So the experience was a bit scary, you know. We were just worried about the oxygen. We were worried about the wind that was going to come in when we passed the summit. And therefore, you know, I had a bit of frostbite as well when I finished reaching the summit and was coming down. So it was a bit scary just at the conditions that were present over there.
Now, 11 people lost their lives this season climbing Everest, which is very sad to hear about. It's an incredibly dangerous expedition to undertake, isn't it? Can you tell us a bit about sort of what the main concerns are, the main dangers would be?
Right. Of course, the main dangers would be the Khumbu Ice Fall. There's a very early portion of the climb from base camp to Camp 1 where big pillars of ice can just fall on the person and the climbers, and we'll all be wiped out with an avalanche and stuff like that. We are also concerned with going up the Lhotse face. There's a very steep face where ice blocks can just come down and knock all the climbers down as well. And of course, the most important portion is the summit day. From Camp 4 itself, where we enter the death zone, there's only about 1/3 of oxygen up there. So it's very tough conditions for climbing. I mean, it is the highest mountain in the world, so we're always worried about oxygen systems. We're always worried about the wind, the weather. If the weather comes in, we are wiped out. So we're very particular about the weather conditions, and anytime we can turn back.
Yeah. And also, Jeremy, you know, once you get up there after that long journey, you want to be able to spend some time celebrating at the top. You don't get very much time, do you? And before you need to start your descent. And the descent can often be, well, is just as treacherous, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I spent only about 10 minutes on the summit without the oxygen so that people recognize my face, taking some photos. But when I was coming down, I wasn't wearing much sunglasses or goggles as well. So I was a bit blinded as well. So I couldn't really see much. It was maybe about 70% of clarity in my eyes. And I was trying to calm down and be as safe as possible. So, you know, when we pass through the Hillary step, we see another long traffic jam, a human traffic jam. It's very, very dangerous because on the right side is 2,000 meters drop into Nepal, and on the left side is 2,000 meters drop into China. So we've got to be very careful with the steps on the descent down, especially when we're coming down to Camp 4. And you know, it's really steep on all sides.
It must make it very difficult for even people that wanted to change their minds and think to get down, because getting past each other in those sorts of conditions must have been very difficult. But we understand that you were doing this not just for the adventure to get to the top of the world, but also for a cause as well.
Right. So this year I actually climbed, 2 years back I was climbing for the Singapore Cancer Society, but this year I was climbing for Children's Cancer Foundation. So right now I raised about $11,400. I'm planning to raise about $15,000 for the Children's Cancer Foundation.
Okay.
Yes.
And just very quickly, Jeremy, what advice would you give to anybody who's even considering, you know, scaling a mountain like Everest?
Of course, the most important thing is to build up on experiences as well before going for this climb. clock other mountains, 7,000 meters, 6,000 meters, or even 8,000 meter mountains before even attempting Mount Everest, because experience is very important when climbing big peaks like Mount Everest.
Yeah, so is the weather conditions and all the factors that are out of your hands as well. Thank you so much for helping us understand some of the dangers involved. Climber Jeremy Tong there speaking of his adventure up to the top of the world.